All right, so soon after President Biden dropped out of the race and endorsed Vice President Harris, Republican Senator Tom Cotton posted this on social media. Quote, Joe Biden succumbed to a coup by Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and Hollywood donors, ignoring millions of Democratic primary votes. Donald Trump took a bullet for democracy. And Senator Cotton of Arkansas joins me now. Senator, thanks so much for being with us. As much as any politician I've seen, you choose your language very carefully. So why call this a coup and not January 6th?
Well, John, look what happened just last weekend. You had Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, George Clooney, Hollywood moguls, Wall Street bankers, all working behind closed doors to bring unbearable pressure to bear on Joe Biden, who in the end threw in the towel. And now you have the Democratic Party uniting around Kamala Harris, who not only has never won a Democratic primary, she's never won a single vote for president, yet they've installed her as their nominee. That's what they want to go forward with in this election, even as we still have questions
I get that,
about Kamala Harris's role in all of this. Kamala Harris.
You use the language coup, and again, you've never said that for January 6th, and as far as I know, no cops were beaten up, no one defecated in the Capitol, there was no criminal trespass in terms of changing the Democratic candidates, were there?
Well, no, but what you get with Kamala Harris is a failed prosecutor who wouldn't seek the death penalty for cop killers, even though her fellow San Francisco Democrat Dianne Feinstein wanted to. Kamala Harris also has to answer questions about what's happened over the last 3.5 years. She was not just a part of the conspiracy of silence about Joe Biden's decline, she was the leader of it. She has said time and time again that he's fit as a fiddle, that he's sharp as a tack. When Robert Hur in February refused to bring criminal charges against Joe Biden, in large part because he said he was a failing, feeble, frail old man, Kamala Harris came out and savaged him in the most strident terms. So the American people deserve to know, what did Kamala Harris know and when did she know it?
You know, it is interesting. You and others have been very critical of Joe Biden when he was running, saying he couldn't serve another 4 years. But when the Democratic Party and Joe Biden himself agrees with you finally, you criticize them. Isn't that a double standard?
Well, John, what I've always said is that Joe Biden was obviously declining. He probably wasn't fit to be president. But even if he was 20 years younger, he still would have been a failed president because he was too liberal. And the same is true of Kamala Harris. She is a San Francisco liberal. She's responsible for all the failed Biden-Harris policies. As vice president, she presides over the Senate, casts votes to break ties. She literally cast the tie-breaking vote for the trillions of dollars of spending that unleashed record high inflation. Joe Biden appointed her border czar. We've had more than 10 million illegal aliens cross our border with Kamala Harris.
You know that's
John,
actually
absolutely
not true.
No.
I mean, she was appointed. What she charged with doing was dealing with the diplomatic effort in the Northern Triangle, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. She was never picked as the border czar. You can criticize what she did on immigration, but she was never the border czar, correct?
Well, John, Joe Biden said that's what she was going to do. Now, maybe she wanted to limit it because she said things in the past during her failed campaign for president, like she wanted to decriminalize illegal entry into this country, or she wanted to abolish the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. Again, Kamala Harris is a San Francisco liberal who would just continue the failed Biden-Harris policies, or as a matter of fact, probably make them worse if you look at her record as the most liberal senator, even more liberal than Bernie Sanders.
It sounded, up until this point, it sounded like you would rather run against Joe Biden than Vice President Harris. Is that true?
Oh, I'm like Donald. I agree with Donald Trump on this. It doesn't matter who the Democrats run. They can take Joe Biden out of the White House. They can't take the failed liberal ideology out of their party. And Kamala Harris probably embodies that failed ideology more than anyone. A San Francisco liberal who has consistently voted to spend trillions of dollars, that's unleashed inflation, that's defended wide open borders, and supported a failed foreign policy that has brought chaos and war around the world.
You call her a failed San Francisco liberal, which is interesting given that when she was running for president and then picked as VP in 2020, the Trump campaign actually went after her for being too tough on crime when she was Attorney General and she worked in law enforcement inside California. This is from Katrina Pearson, who was a spokesperson for the campaign at that time. She said she fought to keep inmates locked up in overcrowded prisons so they could be used for cheap labor. She championed laws and put parents in jail for truancy and prosecuted the mentally ill, basically suggesting that she was too hard on crime there. Your reaction?
Well, there's many cases in which Kamala Harris has been extremely weak on crime. As I mentioned earlier, she refused to seek the death penalty for a cop killer. She let thousands of violent felons go. In the Senate, she promoted efforts, for instance, to eliminate the cash bail system, which many cities have done and had huge spikes in crime. Remember, in the summer of 2020, she posted a fundraiser to help bail out the BLM rioters who torched Minneapolis. That's Kamala Harris's record, a failed San Francisco liberal that's wrong for America.
Again, you've repeated that phrase several times. Clearly, that's something that you wanted to get out there today. You have been critical of President Trump for signing the First Step Act, which was passed in 2018 during his administration, championed by Jared Kushner, perhaps the most important staffer inside the White House at the time. This was criminal justice reform. You called it the worst mistake of the Trump administration. Have you spoken to President Trump about this?
Oh, on many occasions, and it's still much better than anything Kamala Harris has ever done on crime. Again, she's let a cop killer walk from the death penalty. She let thousands of felons go free. In the Senate, she championed efforts to eliminate the bail system. She posted fundraisers for BLM rioters in the summer of 2020. She continues to be a liberal ideologue on criminal justice matters, and frankly, on just about every other matter. That's why she had the most liberal voting record in the Senate, even more liberal than Bernie Sanders.
Just to before I let you go, since you brought up the Black Lives Matter protesters, President Trump, former President Trump, has said he would pardon many of the January 6th rioters. Does that mean you're against that?
No, John, he said he would consider it, and I think it's appropriate to consider it when you look at the unusually aggressive techniques the Department of Justice has used, weaponizing our legal system against, in some cases, people who weren't even inside the Capitol on that day. Now, of course, anyone who committed violence against law enforcement officials or destroyed public property should face the legal consequences. But President Trump is right when he says that we should consider a pardon against the victims of a weaponized system of justice. We should not be supporting BLM and Antifa rioters who torched downtown Minneapolis. That's what Kamala Harris did in 2020. It's what she's continued to do to this very day. You could still contribute money to their bail fund up to this very morning because Kamala Harris is soft on crime. She is a failed San Francisco liberal.
San Francisco liberal. We heard you say that many, many times this morning. Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas, thank you very much. Sarah?